Happy hump day, party people. Heading home right now, and I just left Lexington. Very nice house. Very nice house. Very nice house. They had a very nice house. They had a 3-car garage on one side and a 2-car garage on the other side. And there was a huge boat, fishing boat, I guess, sport type boat. I mean, it was awesome. And the dude has a shelf, rack on the wall, and he's got bags of baits, like he has a department store or something, and rods out the yin yang. I mean, it was a nice place. Nice place. I found several things in there. Usually homes of that caliber, you don't find much, but when you do, it's usually something that needs to be taken care of. Maybe that they're not aware is an issue. One is, and a lot of people don't know this, flexible duct in the garage. Flexible duct in a garage is a hazard. Flexible duct can become easily damaged, and it can allow carbon emissions into the air system. It can be very dangerous. So you may think there's a tight connection there, but it might not, and you're getting emissions from vehicles in the duct system. Very hazardous condition. Also, there were several things with the deck. The deck was really, looks like an original deck, and it looked like there was an add-on deck, and it was really scary. The rim joist was just sitting. It wasn't notched. If it had been notched and bolted in, it'd been a lot better, but it was just sitting on top. It was nailed in. It was pulling out and twisting, and it was mashed down like it was just like moisture damage type. Very scary, because this deck was, I'm gonna say, about 10 feet off the ground. They did have 6x6. You are not supposed to use 4x4 on anything higher than 8 foot. I believe 8 foot is the highest length or height that a 4x4 post can be used on a deck structure. Needs to be a bigger post, say 6x6. But there was, they had Trex on one half and then wood on the other. The Trex was horrific. I mean, it was weathered, it was loose, deteriorating. It was awful. Awful. The wood part deck, that's the one that was having the issues with the rim joist and some attachments underneath. The ledger board attachment to the house, the bolts were undersized. Also, there was a notation of corrosion. Some people may laugh it off and say, oh, it's just a little bit of corrosion, it's going to happen. But as we or I learned in my CE class, which is taught by a general contractor slash structural engineer slash forensic engineer. He showed us a bolt that had a little bit of corrosion on the outside, but on the inside of the bolt, it was solid. I mean, it was full of corrosion. It was, the threads had worn. It was eating away and getting more narrow to where it was just going to break off. The head of it did not look that bad. It had a little bit of corrosion, but on the inside was really bad. So if you want to laugh about it and think it's not a big deal, I'm going to say otherwise. I'm going to call it out. It's for safety, and you don't want people to be having a deck that's going to collapse. So it was that. Also, the roof was very weathered. It seemed to be original roof, and the way I evaluated this roof was from a window up above, which I love that. Easily accessible. You use any means you can that's safe and going to give you a good view to do a good inspection, especially the roof part. When you have access onto a roof from a window, man, that is the best, because you can see so much. You can see the gutters, you can see the roof, siding, downspouts, whatever. You can see it all pretty much. So very, very good. I love when I have houses like that. So today is an 80-degree day. This is North Carolina, and we've already had a touch of the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. Now we're back at the 80s, and I still haven't got my fence put up. Go figure. So hopefully this weekend I'll get a chance to break ground on it. At least get my post set. After the posts are set, the rest is pretty easy peasy. See what else. Just been thinking about the PayPal crap. I'm just so infuriated. I just don't understand people, man. I honestly don't understand people. I mean, I've been blessed. I'm so blessed and grateful, and I'm humbled by people that use my service and all my blessings, and but if this would have been somebody that was living paycheck to paycheck and struggling and just having it hard or out of work, and that was all the money they had in their account, and some jackass done it to them, I mean, honestly, man, because trust me, I have been there. I've been chasing money most of my life, doing contracting, chasing money, consistently chasing it, man, chasing it, feast or fathom. I mean, it was some of those times were really bad. I mean, when I first started out, of course, but you just have to learn to manage your money, and when you're self-employed, because some things turn into seasonal, and you just have to learn to adjust. That's like people that get paid once a month. They learn to adjust. People get paid bi-weekly. They learn to adjust. Some people are eager to get that check and can't wait, It sucks, and as soon as I get the money put back in there, shutting that account down. That account was attached to my All Solutions business account when I was doing contracting work, and I don't ever use it much anymore. I've got some credit cards that are auto paid on that, so once they were paid off I was just going to shut it down, but I was just going to let it run its course. But it got me thinking about contracting work again today, and I'm just so glad I'm not messing with that stuff anymore. And all the people that just tried to dick me over the years, and where I just got to where I had to take pictures of my work before and after, not only for promoting myself but to protect myself, because over the years I've been in court several times, and it's just part of contracting. I mean, and people want something for free. A lot of people just don't know, man. It's awful sometimes. And I think one of the worst ones I had, which it wasn't really too bad because I really came out okay, but it was for a surgeon who Winston-Salem, he actually worked for Bowman Gray. And somebody told me a long time ago, before I started my contracting business, watch out for doctors and lawyers. So this was a surgeon, very immaculate house, very expensive furniture, a lot of antique furniture, very expensive foreign furniture. He was from another country, and this was a $15,000 job. It was a paint job, and you know, I had a contract, and he signed the contract. He gave me the deposit, which was $5,000. I got my paint, my material stuff that I needed, and I made arrangements, or told him to make arrangements to have his furniture moved out of the areas that we were going to be working in, or have them centered into the room, and that we could easily mask the areas and cover the furniture to make sure there was no damage, that I was not going to be moving any of that furniture whatsoever. It's just no way. I could probably break one piece and be done. So he assured me it was going to be done. Showed up and it wasn't done. Reached out to him, and he was like, well, can you start in the kitchen area? And I was like, well, there's wallpaper in the kitchen. And he was like, well, can't you paint over the wallpaper? And I was like, I don't paint over wallpaper. No, I'm not gonna paint over wallpaper. And he was like, well, when I get home tonight, I'll start pulling the wallpaper off, and that'll give you something to work on, and so I can get the furniture done, and blah blah blah. Showed up the next day, and he had peeled maybe one wall off, and it was crappy. He ripped drywall and everything else. I called him back and told him that I still couldn't start, that it needed some prepping done on that wall that he done, and you know, obviously the living room stuff still wasn't covered. And I told him, you know, we can start outside. He was like, no, I want you to do the exterior last. I want you to have everything done inside first. So it's like, okay. So the next day I come back, still no furniture covered, still no drywall, whatever. I was like, what the crap? That was 2 days in a row. So the third day I showed back up, he had the wallpaper stuff finish pulled off and all that, and everything was ready to go. And we painted that one wall that he had ready, and he called me that night and said, that's the wrong color. And I was like, what do you mean it's the wrong color? It was like, you painted that wall the wrong color in the kitchen. And I was like, well, we've walked through all this and discussed it. You signed the contract, all the color specifications, everything are in the contract for which areas, which rooms. You signed off on it. I've got the sample template thing, card with the room name written on it, kitchen, living room. So this is the color. And so I was like, what do you want to do? And he was like, just I'll call you next week. So I didn't hear from him Monday. Tuesday morning, I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'm at home and hear a knock at the door, and it's the sheriff. And the sheriff is serving me a paper for the $15,000. And I was like, what's going on here? Are you freaking crazy? He gave me a deposit of material deposit for $5,000, and I was like, what in the world's this dude's problem? So I called the guy that was working with me, and I told him, and he was like, hey man, I know a lawyer, he helped me with some stuff and blah blah blah. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna give him a call, man, and see what he says. So I gave him a call, and he was like, come on down to my office, we'll talk. So I walked in there with the contract, I walked in there with the papers, or the summons, and he looked it over, and he was like, so you guys want to hang around, or you just want to go, or what do you guys want to do? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, I'm gonna get this taken care of real quick. If you guys want to wait around, or you can go. And I was like, well, how much is it going to be? And he was like, oh, don't even worry about it, man. Pro bono. I deal with stuff like this all the time, and I can easily see what's going on here, and blah blah blah. So he gives the guy a call, man, and they on the phone maybe 10 minutes. And that lawyer just, dude, he was just like, did you even read the contract? Blah, blah, blah. You're not allowing them to complete a job, and you're adhering them, and blah, blah, blah. And just running all through them guys, or through the guy. And the guy was like, he dropped everything, was going to do whatever to drop it. And the lawyer had some paper, he typed up some paper or whatever to get, he was going to get that guy to sign and whatever. And he told me, he was like, sorry you had to deal with this, and I know how some people are, and blah blah blah, and just good luck and whatever. And it was like, at least you got a little bit of money out of it, and blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, I was expecting to make $15,000, and some of the work, well, a lot of the work was outside, exterior, and I did buy some scaffolding and some other stuff, ladders and some other stuff, but and all that paint, all the paint's in his house, so whatever. But I had another guy one time, I laid a sheet vinyl floor in the bathroom for him. His girlfriend was there, and he was at work working third shift. They wanted it done in the afternoon when she got home, and I got done early evening. And I'd taken pictures of it, and get a call the next morning. Well, she wrote me a check she said, "Oh, everything looks good. That's nice. He's gonna really like this," and blah blah blah. And the next morning, I'm pulling into the bank. I've got my check. The phone rings, and it's that phone number from that guy, and he's like, "Hey man, have you cashed that check yet?" And I was like, "No." He was like, well, I'm gonna put a block on it or something like that. And I was like, "What do you mean you're gonna put a block on it?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna block it. I don't like the job you done. I'm not happy with it." I was like, "What the?" This was back the late 90s. This was back when I had anger issues, anger management issues, and I was stupid and I was dumb, and I would hurt somebody. Honestly, I'm not the same guy I am now. Thanks to God, who saved me. I probably still wouldn't be alive now with the attitude I had and the anger and rage. But it was he was like, "I'm gonna have to hire somebody to redo this floor and whatever," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Well, I want to see it. I want to see what you're talking about. I want to see your complaint." He was like, "No, don't worry about it. Blah blah blah. I'm gonna have to get it fixed and whatever." I was like, "What do you know?" So I drove over there from the bank, and I was freaking furious. And I knocked on his door. His car was there, and I knocked and I knocked and I knocked and I knocked. I rang the doorbell 1,000 times. I would not leave. He came to the door. He was like, "I need you to leave. Blah blah blah. You're not coming in here." And I was like, "I want to look at the floor." And I was effing, and I was making a scene. When I think about it, back on it now, I think about how dumb I was probably looking. But at the time, you know, my money was my money, and what I made was what I lived off of, and it was struggle, and I mean, it was hard. And I was desperate, honestly. I'm just being truthful. And I needed that money, man. Every job that I done, I needed it. You know, I had a baby girl I was raising. You know, I've got a family, and we're just barely making it, you know. And I needed that money. And he tried to sue me. We went to court. Thank God I had pictures. He didn't know I had pictures. And judgment was in my favor. So a couple days later, they called me, the courthouse, Guilford County called me and told me come down downtown and pick up a check. And you know, I was grateful for that. But there's just been so many times over the years where people will nitpick something, or they'll damage something so they think they don't have to pay, and then we end up in court. And it's sad. It's honestly sad. You bust your ass. Why would you want to do a bad job? I mean, I know there's some shoddy, shitty contractors out there. I mean, there are. But why would I want to be that shitty, shoddy contractor? You know, I'm not out here trying to rip people off. And so many times it's people that have ripped people off have made it harder for me to earn my money, because when I go to a client, they're like, "Well, the last guy, he blah, 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 and blah, 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 and I'm not giving you a damn dime until everything's done and I'm happy," and blah, blah. And it just made it so much harder. Just some people just, you know, they got taken advantage of, and they're just not going to stand for it anymore. And the people that have a good heart, they're the ones that are having to deal with it. And it just made it so hard. Contracting is a hard work, hard job, and especially when you're doing commercial construction and commercial repairs, when you got to wait for your money, because they want to hold that money as long as they can and get interest off of it. 30, 45, 60 days. It's awful, especially when you work overnight. It's awful. I hated it. But it paid the bills, you know. And then it got to where I just started doing buyer-seller stuff, and it went a lot smoother. There was sometimes I still had to chase money. But the really bad part that I hated was when I would do repairs after closing. And I'm going to stop right there and continue with a separate video.